Hi, I'm Christian Chiller, and in this video, I'm going to take a look at transcription tools. Why? Well, because in the past few months, the growth of generative AI tools has led to a lot of new options in the space, including updates to old tools, but also new tools. And it almost seems like every tool I have access to now has a transcription feature, and I have a lot of options to pick from. And I would like to maybe save a little bit of money and wonder, do I need to pay for all of these when they have a lot of overlapping features? So it seemed like a good opportunity to weigh up some of the options I am currently using, some that I could use, and see which worked best for me. To test this properly, I needed an example piece of audio. I chose a podcast I recorded with Alex from Respeecher, a very interesting Ukrainian startup working in the generative AI space itself. I haven't actually published the episode yet, well, not when I'm making this video. I picked it because it uses a lot of custom terminology and jargon, also because it mentions some places that maybe some tools will struggle with, but also because we have me with my accent and him with his accent, two very different accents that also I wanted to test if the transcription tool could cope with. It's a reasonably good quality recording, so I'm not testing that. Maybe I should have tried one of my live recordings, but it seemed a good one to try with. So let's get started. This is the Google Recorder interface. This is just a recording of an interview from Slush, actually. So a little bit of background noise, but not too much. And you can see it offers time-stamped transcript and also a draggable audio wave interface here. And that's basically it, though. You can see that there definitely are some things. This is not it getting my name wrong. This is actually the name of the interview subject, so that worked. And most of this is pretty accurate, not the company name, which was BevArt. So I think that's something that's a little strange for it to detect. But for the most part, it's pretty accurate. And from here, you can actually do cutting, cropping, removing, mostly from just the audio. And then you can download the file and the text file transcript. So it's pretty basic, but for a lot of people, especially meetings, notes, etc., this is probably enough. So here's the final transcript in Otter. It's interesting because it's got keywords here, but then if I go through some of the actual transcript, then it hasn't got it completely right. So this isn't the correct name for the company. It's fair enough. This was also in Lviv. We've got Law Aviv. And Lviv is a place name. I think that would be something it could pick up. Also wrong here, Love Eve. But then as we go further into custom names for TV characters and things, it actually gets them. I guess they're better known maybe. And from then on, for the most part, the only things it's getting wrong is people's names and some other custom terminology. This is where you can see that it's really designed for meetings and things like that, because it's actually tools optimized for sharing thoughts with other people. If you hit play here, you'll hear playing back the audio.
So I'm joined by Alex from
Not that particularly high quality, which shows you it's not really meant for content creation audio quality.
But the product was sort of interesting enough.
If you want to edit the transcript, you can click in and change it. Doesn't really change much else. So the transcript isn't terrible. You also have these new AI features around summaries and chats with the text. So you can really see it's aimed at business users, not really for my use case. But if you're just after a transcript, it can be quite useful, especially when you consider all of the integration options here with Zoom, HubSpot, Slack, cloud recordings, etc., etc. And finally, there's also this ability to record straight into the browser. And I'm assuming they have mobile apps as well. So again, for kind of note-taking use cases and URLs for meetings as well. So one transcription tool I've found myself using a lot is actually in Adobe Premiere. This is primarily aimed at video, of course, but it can work with audio as well. What is audio but video without video, if that makes sense? It seems slight overkill, but let's include it here. as an option. I can't wait for these features to make it to Audition. So here is the podcast. You can see the transcript here. Again, presented in a similar way. You have gaps. You also have filler words, which is a relatively new feature, actually. And it's all in high quality, so I can play back. And if you want to delete, you can do ripple cuts or just standard deletes, which are slightly different and relevant to Premiere itself, different ways of editing, basically. The way it presents, it breaks it up by the speaker, sometimes where it sort of arbitrarily puts the spacing is a little odd. You can correct the text. I haven't found it to be particularly good at remembering corrections yet, but this seems to be common amongst many of the tools. But as you just want to generate the transcript, you can correct the text that will be exported in the transcript. You can't really change the speaker names either. It may or may not matter. And there's a few preferences and settings that you can configure. It's pretty basic, but for editing in video especially, it's very helpful. You can then generate a caption track, which doesn't really make sense for audio, of course, but it makes sense for the video. And also there's a lot of different export options. In the case of Descript, you can actually add multiple tracks, and it does a pretty good job of stitching them together in the right way. So if I select the recordings of each of the speakers in this conversation here, it will take a little bit of time to upload and transcribe. Already you could start to see this is much more optimized for the flow I'm looking at. You can actually detect the speakers. I'm still a little bit uncertain if it builds up a library of the speakers over time. I often have to keep marking myself. Maybe I'm just missing something there. And here you can see the crucial part that I'm interested in. Combine the two files into a multi-track sequence. This will take a little bit of time, depending on the length, but it's no slower or faster than anything else, really. This is the interface for Descript, also with an audio editor down here. It's a very complex application, a whole bunch of features. So I'm not going to cover them all here. I could have an entire video on Descript in itself. But you can see I uploaded 2 high-quality audio files, no compression, and it's already identified the 2 different speakers and lots of other things going on here. It's actually got the company name correct and the place, which is pretty cool. Just hit play.
Speech I've actually heard of. Maybe it was on one of those.
And you can see how it goes along with the
startups to look
transcript.
for in Ukraine or something list. Who
And you
knows?
can basically just delete words
But
and it will delete the
for
audio.
people who haven't heard of it, what is
And lots of other features like removing filler words, detecting silence that you can just delete here, that kind of thing. If we have a quick scroll through the transcript, it's pretty accurate. I'm not seeing any problems so far. It's also got all the names correct, although the spelling changes and it changes again. This case though, if we want to correct this, so this is just like a search and replace. It doesn't actually really fix the problem across the board. So each one we have to correct, unfortunately. But it is a lot easier to correct it. But all in all, pretty good. You can also then export to high quality project with all the edits included to Audition, Pro Tools, etc. I will actually export the Audition one to show that process because it's currently the process I'm following. And it gives you an idea that the workflow here is really aimed at content creators, not sort of meeting transcriptions. And here we go. Here is the export in Audition. I mean, we didn't do any editing, but you would see all these cut up into the chunks matching the edit you made, which you have to be a little bit careful of because the effects on those small chunks can get quite choppy. But now we can continue doing mastering, etc., etc.
Clients
And
around the
you can
technology
hear
itself,
the same
like
audio
R&D team, deep
here.
learning
This is
engineers,
basically
as well as
almost the
it
same
was
files that were uploaded. In fact, maybe
exciting
exactly the
product
same.
to work
Not
on
completely sure how
because
Descript does it behind the scenes, but they have the
we
same
saw
file names, the
ourselves
same quality,
being
etc.,
part of
etc.
big productions and learn a lot from big
And this is Audiate from TechSmith, a company better known for Snagit and Camtasia, and very much in the support, the documentation, the explanation space, which I think is what Audiate is aimed at, and it feels like it's still a relatively early release. You can't upload the 2 channels. It has to be the 2 channels combined. Set the default language. It will transcribe. The transcription takes a reasonable amount of time. It's about 5 to 7 minutes on my machine. And this is the final result. It looks a lot like Descript, but with not so many features, or features aimed more at their user base, I guess. But it looks pretty similar in some ways. And there are some of the various things you can highlight here to get rid of the filler words or just cut audio manually.
I feel like a re-speech I've actually heard of. Maybe it was on one of those.
And that's basically as you'd expect. Here you can delete from the text or from the timeline. As with many of the other tools, it makes mistakes. And in this case, the mistakes are different. We've got laviv, kind of like a French word. Re-speecher is actually correct. And then we've got laviv, but then the TV shows and films seem to be mostly correct. There's a few other features lurking behind the scenes, and one of them is actually a little bit different. You can actually generate audio from text or generate the script from the audio, which is what we've done here. So here is obviously using some kind of generative AI tool. This sort of shows what TechSmith's main business is, I suppose. People who are generating explanatory content. And the export options is basically just export the audio or export to Camtasia, which again shows you this is not really aimed at the full transcription tool chain that we've had elsewhere, although it is lurking beneath the surface here in text and SRT, but not on the main interface. I wanted to quickly show Riverside. I don't actually use Riverside anymore, but I used to. And I found some of the transcription features it offers to be comparable with Descript. It's actually a remote recording platform that then started adding a lot of other transcription and notes generation and all sorts of other tools. It's quite good, but then Descript just offered me other features that I was looking for. And you can see there's a similar sort of interface. We have the different speakers. It's also doing this auto chapterization. I don't think that's a word, but we'll go with it as well. And we can see there we go. Let's actually correct that. And that, correct all. To be honest with you, that's the one place I've seen it work properly on these tools. So that's also cool. Interestingly, it got some of the TV and character names wrong, which is interesting. And equally, though, if we want to delete things, we just hit delete. It actually shows you quite nicely that it has deleted it. And it also offers a whole bunch of other smart tools like removing the silences, and then the ability to download the transcript, download subtitles, copy it. I am just using the free trial here as I'm not a customer anymore, but just to show you some of the possibilities. So if you're looking for an all-in-one tool and you don't have something already, then Riverside FM is actually quite good, but it all happens in the browser, of course, which is something I'm generally not wanting to do. But if you're okay with that, then it's an option to consider. This is MacWhisper. It's a desktop application, a wrapper around Whisper, and Whisper in C++ to be specific, but optimized for Mac. It runs quite well, actually. Whisper has some of its own limitations, which we'll hit upon a little bit here. I'm not using the Pro version, which is worth bearing in mind. There's a bunch of features, including better model support, that I'm not getting access to. So I'm just using the free version. A lot of these kind of work in the same way. You could record live in. You can also record app audio with Pro. You can also just open a file. And there's this transcribe podcast feature, which works a little bit similar to the Descript one. So I'm going to try that. And you can see it's detected the two speakers. I'm not entirely sure who's who in these files, so we'll just leave it as it is. And off it goes. How long it takes is, of course, a little bit dependent on your computer and the files. So I will leave that running and report back of how long it took when it's done. This is the result. It actually only took just over a minute to do that, which isn't bad. This initial view, you can't really see the different speakers, but if you switch to this segment, you actually see it, I guess, comparable way to Descript, but presented differently, even with when the other person isn't actually saying anything. And here we go. Down here, you can actually start to see it separating the two speakers. Again, Lviv is correct. IT Arena is correct. Respeecher is spelt incorrectly, but I mean, it's kind of a custom name, so that's actually kind of not wrong. And everything else is also pretty good. All these pauses and things is maybe makes it a little hard to scroll through, but it's actually not bad. And you can hear what you're currently looking at, but it doesn't stay. It stays in sync one way here, but if we scroll on here, it doesn't. I mean, it's still in beta.
SaaS platform called
From now,
Marketplace
you can
that's
see it actually scrolling through.
For small creators. That's basically a democratized
And even, which is kind of useful, change the speed.
version of our very heavy but Hollywood grade technology that can be used by small independent creators, musicians.
Okay, great. So we have the transcript. The export options here are a bunch of different formats. Text, all these pauses is not ideal. These are formats actually for transcription tools. We could also break it into sentences or speaker paragraphs. So this is much more useful. And then other formats if you use the pro version. And also just copy the whole thing if you want to. I mean, considering I didn't pay anything for this, it's pretty good. Audio Hijack is an application probably known to many Mac users. It lets you do all sorts of weird and wonderful things with audio. And they added this transcribe block recently. You can only do it on audio capture. Hence, I can't use my sample file, but I really wanted to try it. And it's transcribing as we speak. I haven't said very much, of course. And you can see there's some settings here. So let's just stick to the defaults. It's powered by Whisper, so it should be similar to the MacWhisper application, I guess. But let's stop this and see. So here is the results. So you don't get to do very much. It's just a raw transcript. Let's open this up and zoom in a bit. I can't remember exactly what I said. Seems reasonable, but you can't do a great deal with it. Let's try the higher quality out of interest. And we open that up. So we'll go for high accuracy. So it has to download first. So I'm not sure if I'm likely to use this over MacWhisper, really, because you get more options for the actual working with the actual transcription. And, you know, this is usually used just for recording with Audio Hijack. So I'm probably more likely to take it into other tools I'm looking at in this video. But it's an interesting feature. I think this is the interesting thing with the availability of so many of these tools. It's relatively, quote unquote, easy to add these features. So why not, I guess, is the argument. Okay, so I'm going to fake my interview that I did in IT Arena in Lviv in Ukraine. I spoke to Alex of Respeecher, which is an AI tool for generating models. In fact, I'm slightly forgetting, but generating models in games and movies. They've worked on Boba Fett, Mandalorian. They recreated Luke Skywalker's voice with Mark Hamill. They worked on games Cyberpunk 2077, etc., etc. I don't know. That was me intentionally trying to say things that make no sense. Yeah, that's pretty accurate, really. So actually, it got Respeecher correct this time as well. So not bad, but I think having it in the tool chain here, I'm not sure how useful it is, but it's an interesting addition. This is a slightly strange one. I don't know how useful it is, but it's something that floats around on a few Mac blogs, so I thought it was worth pointing out. You can actually do transcription straight in macOS. It requires a few moving parts. First, something like Loopback. You can also use Black Hole, which is the free version, to route application audio, and then we go to the dictation settings in system settings, change that to that rooted audio, open up anything really, but this is text edit, anything that takes text, start playing the file, and it will start transcribing in real time. Now, on a YouTube video, this is super fun to watch, but it's quite tedious because it does it in real time, of course. So if your interview is an hour, it's going to take an hour. Well, it is quite fun to watch it correcting itself as it goes, but as you can probably already see, it's not particularly accurate. I think whatever system is powering this behind the scenes is relatively old. Dictation has been in macOS for quite some time. Actually, it's not that new. I don't think it's a feature that many people know about, but it's very useful, actually. I think maybe more people use it on iOS, but it's there. It exists. Wherever you can input into a text field, you could in theory use it with something like Loopback or Black Hole. So if you feel like it, and you feel like just having this running in the background whilst you're doing something else, there you go. It's an option.
For a piece of content. And as an example, we can talk about Mandalorian or Book of Boba Fett, where we did the voice of young Luke Skywalker.
And that was my look at new or existing, with new features, transcription tools. I think, from my own personal perspective, I am probably going to stick with using Descript whilst I'm editing, mostly audio at the moment. I will start looking at its video features as well at some point. I will continue using the Premiere transcription features when I am editing video. And for everything else, when I have kind of one-off use cases, I'm probably going to look at Whisper and maybe look at getting the pro version of that should I need it. I think I have basically a tool I'm using already in the space of Premiere. I do hope they bring some of those features to Audition, and then I may not need Descript in the future. But in the meantime, it's also giving me other features I use elsewhere, in addition to just the transcription aspect. And MacWhisper is very good, and even the free version is very good just when I need to on the fly generate things. Obviously, I don't get this shared dictionary amongst all of them, but I don't really have a shared dictionary in each tool either, so I'm not really losing very much, unfortunately. Oh well, maybe that's something that will come in the future. Let me know your experiences. Let me know which tools you use and how you find them, or some I've missed. I would be very happy to hear other options and maybe make another video. I have been Christian Schiller. You can find more about me at christianschiller.com, or of course, you can subscribe down below. Thank you very much for joining me. I wonder what YouTube's transcription tools have made of this video. Take care, everybody, and see you next time.